fair. They'll probably hear it, people are quiet.
Hello.
It's better.
So hi, I'm one of two best man, me and Mr. Samuel Burge over there, and I would like to introduce Mr. Ian Edwards, the brother of the bride, for his speech.
Thank you. I'll try and make this as brief as possible. My nan over there just said, "Can you hurry up, because otherwise I'll fall asleep." Firstly, I'm sure you'll agree, my sister looks absolutely beautiful today. I should probably make you aware from the very start that I lacked any real practical experience as a public speaker. Having spent 20 years living with two women, there have been very few chances for me to speak, and even fewer when they actually listened to me. Today is, of course, a celebration, not just for the love that has united Nick and Natalie in marriage, but also of the families that have created, moulded and influenced the lives of the two special people here today. So I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Martin and Anna, and to the relatives and friends of both families. Thank you all for joining us in celebrating this very special day. It's good to see so many friends and family here, some of whom I know have travelled a long way to be here. I think at this point I'd just like to give Martin and Anna a round of applause for the spread they put on yesterday. I raise a glass to honour my sister on her wedding day. It's hard to find the right words to express the depths of my feelings. She's a wonderful sister, and I'm sure she'll be a fine wife. You are lucky and beautiful today, Natalie, and it proves one thing I've always known about Nick. He is clearly a man of vision. Occasionally blurred, sometimes double, but nonetheless a man of vision who's been lucky enough to find my sister. On to Nick. Nick, I'd like to welcome you into the family, even though you've been a part of it for a long time now. I think you've been with Natalie long enough to know what you let yourself in for, so I've got no sympathy for you. From the first time I met Nick, I believed he'd be a special person in Natalie's life. He's kind, he's funny, he's got all 10 fingers, and he's very well mannered. Yet, in spite of all this, you still claim to be a Man United fan. I was speaking to Anna just before, during dinner, and I asked, what was Nick's name going to be if he'd have been born a girl? And apparently it was Sarah. And if any of you have seen Nick play football, you'd understand why. On a serious note, Nick, you're a fine young man, and welcome to the family. Right, back to my sister. I promised her I wouldn't tell any embarrassing stories, but sorry, Nat, I lied. Ladies and gentlemen, my sister wasn't always the fine young woman you see in front of you today. When my sister was a toddler, it was a hot, sunny day, and she came in and said, "Can I have some money to go to the ice cream van?" And my mum said, "No, sorry, she was up." So anyway, Natalie toddled off, Mum carried on doing whatever she was doing. Anyway, a little time later, Natalie walked in with the biggest 99 ice cream you could ever see. 2 flakes, hundreds of thousands, chocolate sauce, everything, absolutely covered. Anyway, Mum was busy doing whatever she was doing, so she didn't really clock it and didn't think much of it and carried on doing what she was doing. But later, she realised Natalie walked into with an ice cream, walked upstairs and looked under Natalie's bed. And what you could see was a big treasure trove of money. including my mum's jewellery, my nan's gold necklace, who was staying over at the time. It transpires that when my dad got home from work each night, he used to take the change out of his pocket, leave it on the side, and Natalie used to pilfer a little bit. Secret stash behind the bed. So, ladies and gentlemen, with this in mind, please keep a close eye on your personal belongings.
It was a klepto, it was. Who? I don't.
Shout.
Shout, yeah, she might hear.
Flick!
Flick.
Flick! Is she around there? No.
Anyway, we'll give her a round. Anyway, I'd like to say a big thank you to Flick and all the staff at Northover Manor for looking after us and making this a special day. If any of them actually turn up, we'll give them a round of applause anyway. I know that Nick has chosen well, and I believe that Natalie has too. And I wish them well for a long, happy and prosperous future together. I can't stress enough how proud I am today and how good it is to have all you here. Nick and Natalie, may your marriage be a truly happy one. May you begin with an unforgettable honeymoon in Thailand, and that you have a long and wonderful life together. It is my very great pleasure to propose the first toast to the happy couple. So could I ask you to please be upstanding?
Yeah.
Bride and groom.
Bride
and
groom.
Now I'd like to pass it on to the groom, Mr. Nicholas John Pierce.
I've got a speech in front of me, but still undecided about what I'm going to do with it, to be honest. I don't know if I'm... Thank Ian for his speech as heading number 1. Thank you for your semi-kind words there. I've also got at the end of this speech, the only downside about joining your family is I've got to join a bunch of Liverpool fans. But I suppose after today's result, I don't know what to say for that one. But thank you for officially welcoming to your family.
Pleasure.
And looking forward to the future together when we get a little top to play with. A little tot out there as well. So thank you very much. I suppose I've got to start with saying me and Mrs. Pierce here. That's spelled with an S as well, not C. We'd all like to thank you so much for coming down here today. We know today and yesterday was just a complete disaster for people getting here because of some flipping rocks in the middle of nowhere. So, thank you so much for just sitting in the traffic and heading on down here. We really appreciate it. We'd especially like to thank the people that have travelled a long distance today. So Monica and Alan, we'd like to thank you for coming over from sunny Spain to come to cloudy England. Appreciate that. We'd like to thank Nat's gran Ursula for coming over with your hectic trip from Spain. Really appreciate that.
Germany.
Close. Yeah. Europe, isn't it?
Close. I did it on my way. It's alright.
We'd like to thank Mark and Shelves from coming over from the States, the other side of the planet, so I appreciate you guys being here as well. Johnny and Mel as well for breaking up their round the world trip to be with us today, so I really appreciate that for you guys as well. And everybody that's come from the southeast and southwest and wherever else you've come from, Midlands, nice one. We'd all like to thank you for your kind gifts and your cards that you've placed over here and you've given us over the last couple of days. I got a D in maths at GCSEs, but I reckon with the signatures on there I can probably set direct debits up on all of them. So that'll help us out for the next couple of years. We'd also like to thank absent friends and family here today, who there are a fair few. So instead of naming them all, let's just toast absent friends and family.
Absent friends and family.
Right. Val.
Careful.
Don't cry, look at me. Thank you so much for your reading earlier in the church today. It meant a lot to both of us. You've been such a rock in Nat's life, and thank you so much from day one. Day one, 10 years ago. 10 years, 9.5. Yeah, 9.5, yeah. Feels like forever now, so thank you so much. I meant that in a good way, yeah. But thank you so much from day one, and you're basically a second mother to me now. So thank you so much. You've raised a beautiful, intelligent, kind-hearted, caring daughter that I get to.
Talking about so much.
God say something nice to say, that I get to spend the rest of my life with. So thank you very much for that. And also, a lot of the decorations and all the cake pops that, I don't know if you've already annihilated them or not, but she's the lady to thank for it. And just sitting there for hours, like mind-numbingly boring. So thank you so much for that. And all the hearts on the back of the chairs as well. I sat there and watched that, and Val would do that for hours and hours. That was fun.
Sat there and watched.
You were saying the letters.
Des, we'd like to thank you also for, even though you don't admit it, running around like an absolute nutcase this morning, and also for helping me and Nat out over the last couple of years, fixing their cars, mostly Nat, to be fair. But I don't know where we'd be without that, probably a hell of a lot poorer than we are. But no, thank you so much for that, and we mean that from the bottom of our hearts. Mother and Father, thank you so much for the speeches that you made in the church earlier and your prayers. I know it's been a little bit of a nightmare. Don't even know where to start with that, but thanks for sticking with me for all these years through the rough and the smooth. And you know what Dad said to me when we were in so a long time ago. Ran into a few predicaments at uni, had a sore ankle for a while, jumped off a staircase, whatever. And then, so when we go to Latvia last week, Dad's like, don't go jumping off any roofs. Who goes to Latvia and jumps off a roof? But yeah, I'd just like to say, through thick and thin, the amount of times that you guys have gone out your way, not only for me, for Mark as well, and now for me and Nat, last night hosting all the food, and the amount of times that you've had to skip work to like help me or Mark out, or Mum as well, taking time off work to help either of us out. We really appreciate it, and I know we don't tell you enough, but
Thank you.
well, I'll get that out. So, yeah, really love you guys so much, and I hope me and Nat one day end up being, if we can be half of what you are, then it'd be fantastic.
I'm hoping you'll care for us soon.
You're paying for it. Bridesmaids, you all look ridiculous today, in a good way. You look stunning, all of you look absolutely stunning today. And thank you so much for being with Nat, for as long as you've been with Nat, especially Katie and Charlotte have been there the full distance. And Katie, I'd like to thank you personally for giving her a good time over in Marbella, planning all of that. And Charlotte for sorting out the UK hen do as well. Spot on. She had an awesome time, so thank you so much for that. Ushers. 1, 2. Thank you so much for helping out in the church today, and just basically being awesome. Where am I now then?
Yawn.
Best man.
Be nice now.
Thank you for coming.
Sorry.
No, Mark, awesome brother, best I could ever ask for. We miss you guys over in America, but it's great to have you here now, and then we'll go over and see you in the States, and flipping awesome place to have a holiday, so win-win. Sammy, thanks for being there through all the hard times and the good times at uni, and beyond, basically. And there was some pretty bad times, but there was some pretty awesome times. Trying to get the security tags off Smirnoff bottles. Thanks for the stag do. Yeah. I told a couple of you that. So we get to Riga Airport in Latvia. 9 people on the list.
Right.
And she's like, my name isn't on anything. Sam didn't even book me on this stag do. I don't know what to say about that guy. No, seriously, Sam, I appreciate your friendship, and you know me and that we've been traveling around the world together. You're up on the picture on one of them, so. Right. Now you, monkey. For those of you that don't know, we met at uni, more or less from the first minute Nat walked into the first lecture. I was like, oh my goodness me. But that was what, end of September probably? And then we did some work together, managed to get the number. I was like, oh, I need to send this work over because it's massively important. Just sending a message to her saying, yeah, you're pretty fit, to be honest. And anyway, this was like November time, so January, the day after our 20th birthday, 19th birthday, 20th birthday, finally sealed the deal. And then, it's not how I meant it. Anyway, from there, it's just been absolutely awesome. Like, we've done so much cool stuff together. We've just seen the world together. We've just slept in the mud at Glastonbury. I don't even know how many times. Had such a good time together, and you just look unbelievable. Walking down the aisle today was. It feels like the first time I met you, and from the first time I met you, I cannot believe that I'm standing here today. I mean, I think I've hit the flipping jackpot, to be honest. So I'm surprised you're with me, to be honest. And I think a lot of people do, to be honest. So I think I've hit the jackpot, and I'm going to run with it for now and see how it goes. But no, you look absolutely stunning today, and there's just nobody I would rather spend the rest of my life with. There's just absolutely nobody at all. It's just absolutely phenomenal. I'm just the happiest guy in the world, so. More or less done now. Got to pass over to the best man. So, for those of you who know Sam, he's got a medical condition that makes him exaggerate everything. You always believe in fantastical events that don't occur, don't you? So if anybody wants to know the truth of what really happened when Sam's not on one, then I'll be around later just to clarify it. But yeah, that's it. Job done.
Right then, for anybody who, Nick did his best man speech at my wedding, and I wasn't prepared for what he said. His was beyond brutal. So I tried to go one step further and not really have a line with anything. So if you don't laugh, it's just the way it is. So yeah, obviously first of all, it's a bit different because obviously me and Sam are both best men. So I'll be discussing Nicholas from their young ages up until about 19, and then Sam will have the rest in university. First of all, before I start the speech, I wasn't going to include this, but me and Sam had a little discussion. If anybody noticed when Nick was kneeling down in the church, he was wearing some Year 6 Sports Day Umbro like little socks, which I thought was quite impressive. Didn't really. It was like, you know, we're not at Anglesey High School anymore. You know, okay, yeah. You know, Natalie, you look beautiful today. Nick, sorry. You know, obviously, as the far superior, stronger, and younger sibling of the two, you know, I'm now going to commence my speech. I'd like to say that this best man speech is probably one of the most expensive you've heard. Obviously, as I'm coming from the west coast of America, and obviously it would have been nice on Skype if you'd offered to pay for some of the tickets. Very expensive. I'm not going to lie. You know, obviously one of the things that Nat said to me before, that she obviously didn't want to talk about ex-girlfriends or anything, so I'm not going to talk about that. But the one thing that you know, I was looking at is all your ex-boyfriends.
Wow. Didn't see that.
But you know, I won't get there on that. Yeah. And obviously being married for 1.5 years to Shelby. You know, I'd like to give you a tiny bit of marriage advice. Marriage is not a word, you can just remember that. It's a sentence, a life sentence. Sorry Shelby. Yeah, pretty brutal. And I'd like to be a bit interactive with this. So Natalie, I'd like to put you to put your hand on the table.
This one.
You can put your right hand on the table, please. Yeah, and now I'd like to put your right hand on the table. No, on top of her, sorry. Okay, very good. I want everyone to witness this touching moment. And Nick, also I want you to enjoy this because it's the last time that you'll ever have the upper hand.
That's a good one.
That's the internet for you there, Nick. So obviously Nick and Nat, you know, you're finally married, for better or for worse, which is quite appropriate. As Nick, you couldn't have done any better, and obviously Natalie, you couldn't have done any worse. And then I found an article online, which was brilliant, and it says this: "It is a woman's business to get married as soon as possible, and a man's to keep unmarried as long as possible." And let's be fair, Nick's been, how long have you been together for?
9.5 years.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And so I wanted to say a few short stories of when we were children. The first one, I can't remember the exact date, but my mum and dad will probably realise. We were in, I think we're on a ferry near Saint-Tropez, and my mum and dad mistaken punch for rum. So obviously they decided to give my brother a large amount of rum when he was 5 years old on a boat. And he was decided, and obviously at 3 years old, I don't really remember this, but he was swaying around on the boat, and all I heard my mum say is, "Martin, get him off the boat, we need to get him some pizza." So he was, don't remember that, but mum and dad have been talking about that for a long time. The next story I want to say is, this was probably when I was about 8 or 9, and we were, nice summer's day, we were playing cricket in our back garden, and Nick was bowling to me, and I had the cricket bat. And as a true Man United fan, I got the Wayne Rooney red mist, and hit the ball. And Nick decided to leave. Decided I didn't want to play anymore. So obviously, I decided that was completely unacceptable. So as he's walking back into the house, I run as fast as I can at him and crack him over there with a cricket bat. So yeah, just like really, you should play with me. Yeah. And then the last one, the last story that I was going to say is Nick was with his friend, and all I see, I'm watching TV when I'm like 10 years old, and he comes back into the house with gushing with blood from the top of his eye. He obviously tells his mum and dad one thing, and obviously they later get out of him, but he was up a tree, I'm not really sure what he was doing up there, and his friend, Matthew Allen, decides to throw a hammer at him at his face, saying, catch this, and then obviously your eye caught it, but not much else. You came back, and then you had to go get stitches in your eye, which was...
Still got the scars.
Yeah, still got the scars to tell.
Yeah.
And so I'm not really surprised how my mum and dad didn't get social services, along with the amount of things that we did. I'd like to give Nick two pieces of advice about the in-laws. Firstly, I can say this because my mother-in-law isn't here.
Oh God.
Nick, you'll be given loads of advice from married men here today. Let me give you a piece of mine. Always remember that it's very important to get along with your mother-in-law. I didn't speak to mine for the first year of my marriage. It wasn't that I didn't like her, I was just too polite to interrupt. And then secondly, this is a bit of a... Secondly, Nick, I'd like to share with you the Women's Dictionary. Okay, so number one, the word fine. She thinks she's right, but you might have a good argument. This means that you should shut up. You should never use the word fine, especially about how she looks. Number two, 5 minutes. This means half an hour, very similar to 5 minutes we use when a football match is on and she wants to go shopping. So fair's fair. Number three, nothing. If she says nothing, nothing's up, something's up, you should be on your toes. Nothing usually signifies an argument that will last 5 minutes and will end in the word fine. Number four, go ahead. Under no circumstances, go ahead. It's a dare. If you go ahead, you're in for an argument about nothing. That really means something that will last 5 minutes and you won't be fine.
Yeah.
And then number five, don't worry about it. Now be aware of this dangerous statement. This means it's something that she's asked you to do several times but is now doing it herself. This will later result in asking what's wrong, and Natalie's response will be nothing, I'm fine. Finally, I'd like to address both of you. Married life can be confusing. In the first year, the bride speaks and the groom listens. In the second year, the groom speaks and the bride listens. And in the third year, they both speak and the neighbours listen. Anyway, enough of all that. In all seriousness though, I'd like to say Nick is an amazing guy and a great brother, and even though we live a world apart, and obviously we talk and Skype a lot, we're very, very close, and I feel very blessed that, we're very close and we can talk all the time. And Natalie, you're an amazing person, and I've known you for so long, and I see you as my sister anyway. It's just legal now, obviously. Yeah, and that's about it. And so I'd like to hand it over to Sam, Mr. Samuel Birch.
Right, thank you, Mark. I hope that everyone can understand Mark, as English is now his second language. I think we just about got there, didn't we? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry, I'm not reading all 12 pages. There are, in fact, only 3 words on each page. I can't see them. Good afternoon, and may I also extend our thanks to all of you for being here today to share Nick and Nat's most special days. It's a real testament to them that so many people have made it from here, there and everywhere. And I know that they've put in so much effort and will appreciate everyone being here. So thank you for that. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Sam, and or Boris, or whatever Doris wants to call me. And Nick and I started at university together 10 years ago this year, which is frightening, isn't it? It was when we first started in halls when I got to know Nick, him with his tight haircut, baggy jeans, an MC Hammer t-shirt, and me with my John Lennon specs, Marks and Spencer's cords, and a comb over that even now I can't believe. Yeah, things have improved. As well as living in halls with Nick, Nick and I went on to share 2 houses over the next 2 years at Southampton, where he was doing his very best to achieve a degree in what I refer to as holiday studies. Joking aside though, it was during this time that our friendship really grew, and Nick has become someone who I'm immensely proud to be stood here for today, as I was when he was an usher at my wedding when I married my wife Min last year, year before. Spending time with Nick has always been a pleasure, and unfortunately something we don't seem to find enough time to do at the moment. But whenever we see him, and I'm sure Mark, Andy and Keith can all vouch for this, as soon as we see him we're all straight back to where we left off. And I've forgotten where I am. His kindness, dedication and wicked sense of humour are all the things that go to make him an absolute gent and someone we're all proud to call a mate. Living with Nick, this has also meant that I've had the pleasure of watching and occasionally hearing his and Nat's relationship flourish from the start. Sorry for the over 50s. And I must also say that it's such an honour because, you know, here being part of this, and not just one but 2 of my greatest friends getting married, it's, you know, it's a real honour. Sorry, but joking aside, you've really struck gold, as you said, with Nat. You know, with Nat, you found her laughter, enthusiasm, kindness, and you know, is infectious to everyone she meets. And most of all, she brings out the very best in you. Yeah. This leads me on to the beautiful Natalie, or should I say, Mrs. Pierce. Nick, what the heck took you so long?
No, no.
So I'm not using any relationship analogies or anything, but let's say Nick was a footballer. We can quite firmly say that Nick is now playing Champions League football at the highest level. Even though he's had to play a lot of non-league and international football to get there, and spent a fair bit of time on the injury list too. So, talking of injuries, I wasn't too sure whether to talk about the African sunburn, the broken foot, or the suspected heart attack. And he doesn't like me talking about the broken foot because I might have tried to set fire to his plaster cast on the sofa. So I went for the latter. So I returned home from lectures one day. Another housemate saying Nick was upstairs, wasn't feeling too well. And by the time I got there, he'd stripped down to his skimpies and was sweating profusely whilst holding his chest and on the phone to the emergency services. Now, I know my medical knowledge only stretches as far as pigs and pigeons, but this one was a banker, I was sure Nick was having a heart attack. Back stations. Off to Southampton A&E in a car that I'd randomly stopped in the street. Whilst there, Nick underwent some serious, extensive tests and examinations, and after 6 hours and a decent burp, he was released after being diagnosed with indigestion. Now that'll teach you, that'll teach you not to eat 3 chicken Kievs in 90 seconds, all because it was Monday, you were in a rush, because Chaos had Strongbow for a pint of pound. Right, so, I know Mark's mentioned this stag do, but yeah, 7 days ago we thought we ought to take Nick out for a pint or 2 to Mark and I not only be the best men, but also both married, and thought we had the best chance of convincing him that this was a horrendous idea. Evidently he didn't listen. So, somehow or other, we ended up in Stansted Airport, 4 AM on Saturday, just about to board a flight to Latvia. The unfortunate thing about this is that asking me to organise anything is a bit like asking McDonald's to look after your cow. And this became evident when we'd actually confirmed that, Nick was booked onto the flight, because both Ryanair and I weren't 100%. But when we arrived, as Mark said, yes, I had somehow forgotten to actually book him on the whole trip. Luckily, I was handed a get-out-of-jail card, and Nick spent the rest of the weekend known as Mr. Ian Edwards, who was unfortunately unable to come. And in fact, I had a deal with Nick that as long as I can, received a continuous flow of canapés for at least 2 hours today, I'd keep his temporary Latvian criminal record to myself. So I will. Finally, I must also extend the toast on behalf of, the toast of the groom on behalf of both us ushers and the bridesmaids to all Nick and Nat's families for helping make today such a special and fantastic day. It really has been one we'll all remember forever. So Nick, here starts the rest of your life together with the beautiful Natalie. And as long as you manage to stay clear of the Ebola virus, try and spend more than at least 6 months in England, then I know you're going to have so much fun and happiness together. Now, someone once told me that a marriage was a 50-50 partnership, and I've always thought about it, and I think this chap obviously knew nothing about both women or fractions. But I'll end with saying this. Nick, to keep your marriage brimming in love in the loving cup, whenever you're wrong, admit it. And whenever you're right, shut up. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be tea and coffee served through in the bar area. And that concludes the speeches.
Sorry, and also the cake will be cut at about 7:45. Is that right? Yeah, it's about 25 too. And the discotheque will commence. Thank you.
Are you?
Yes.
Good.
Actually.